Hey everybody, welcome back to PathMonk Presents. PathMonk is the AI for website conversions. With increasing online competition, over 98% of website visitors don't convert. The ability to successfully show your value proposition and support visitors in their buying journey separates you from the competition online. PathMonk qualifies and converts leads on your website by figuring out where they are in the buying journey and influencing them in key decision moments with relevant micro experiences like case studies, intro videos, and much more. Stay relevant to your visitors and increase conversions by 50% by adding PathMonk to your website in seconds, letting the AI do all the work, and increase conversions while you keep doing marketing as usual. Check us out on pathmonk.com. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of PathMonk Presents. We're really excited for today's episode because today we've got Alon Walks, CMO over at SpotDraft. Alon, how you doing today?
Excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for joining and bringing the energy. So, I'm really looking forward to today's episode because I know we're really looking forward to seeing what SpotDraft has going on from a marketing perspective. But maybe before we dive too deep into anything, you can just give our audience a little bit of a background about, in your own words, what is SpotDraft and what are you guys up to?
Sure. SpotDraft is a company that serves the legal function, in-house legal function of companies, and basically is the core system of record for everything they need to do from contract management to redlining to NDAs to MSAs with the sales team. These teams have a lot to do, legal in-house teams. It's a function that's bombarded, always challenged with capacity. And SpotDraft basically is that concierge service for them, but from a software perspective, that enables them to do anything and is truly the engine of how legal works for in-house teams.
And being that this tool for technology, this tool for legal teams, in
Mhm.
addition to just saving them time, because you can imagine how many documents they have to read and stuff, what is the aspect about the ability to do this so much more accurately? Because I would imagine from an outsider's perspective, when you have all of these legal documents that you have to go through, the chance for human error is always kind of there, I would imagine, right? So to have a tool that can kind of read through it automatically and catch these types of things, is it not only saving time, but also improving the accuracy of the legal teams?
Not just that. First of all, so every company talks about productivity. Every company talks about increasing scale.
Mhm.
That is obvious here, but it's across all of the tasks to do in a given day. But a second to that is not only do you not miss out on things that you were supposed to do, that's what true orchestration, workflow management, and understanding what great looks like. Also, there's compliance and ensuring that the steps taken and the documents have everything that's needed by aligning them to templates and aligning them to what is needed as the true tasks to do, whether it's an NDA, whether it's an MSA, whether it's a partnership agreement. That is a great benefit of having systems help you versus just human on its own. The combination of human, AI, and a workflow-based platform is truly, I think, what modern companies need today.
I like that word you use, that orchestration of all of those things working together. It's a really good way to put it. Okay, let's move on to the meat of the conversation, talking about what you guys are doing from a marketing perspective. So, number one, maybe you can give us a little bit of background about who you are serving. So, what are the typical companies or industries that you're working with, and what are some of the major problems that you're solving for them?
Sure. The problems we're solving, what I alluded to earlier, are being able to do more with less mundane, repeatable tasks, making sure that the right steps are taken to complete the task, whether it's a contract review, whether it's redlining, whether it's collaboration. And these things usually lead to the two definitions of success for a lawyer, which is, can I do more? Can I do it quicker? I.e.
Mhm.
throughput and time to delivery. Like how much can you do it quicker? Like the turnaround time. Okay.
Mhm.
Those are the two big metrics of success. The audience we serve is not just the lawyer themselves. It is in-house legal team. We decided to specialize on those because they are really bombarded with amount of work. And secondly, it's not like they bill internally for the hours. They are
Mhm.
full-time employees, mostly some contractors, but full employees of a software company, retail company, services company, manufacturing company, and they need to be able to scale. They need to be able to do things better, and they need to be able to not drop things from exactly the workflows we talked about earlier. So we serve those companies, they're usually mid-market, enterprise size companies, and also some SMBs that they really need a solution because they have enough capacity of these tasks, requests, and contracts that truly need to be handled daily. And sometimes with a hockey stick, when it's end of month, end of quarter, these things need to be handled as well.
Right. I think that's a really, I think what you said about in-house attorney or in-house legal teams not necessarily billing by the hour, right? So they have to be as efficient as possible. If this is out of house and they say, oh, we'll take as much time as we need to review all of this stuff, right? But if you're going to be in-house, you're on a salary and it doesn't benefit you to take even more time. You have to be as efficient as possible and you have to get more and more done. I think that's a really key aspect of this that you're helping me to understand. Next question. How does how do your clients typically find out about you? Like, are there any sort of top acquisition channels or typical ways that you're getting in front of your clientele?
Yeah. So what I love about the world of marketing today, I specialize in segment and persona-based approach. So this is the function that we mostly cater to. But there's also supporting personas like finance, like procurement, like sales, that also care a lot about all of these tasks that use the legal in-house team quite fervently. So the way we reach people isn't just by capturing intent, i.e., demand inbound. That's sure you want to be the best at that. Everybody does. But as we all know, 5-10% of business users are going to be looking for a solution at the moment. And when you do, it's a little bit too late. I don't like being the one on the end of the call. Hey, can you show me a demo? I want to be influencing that way ahead of time. Basically, what I'm alluding to, this is a value-based sell, right? So when you're selling to a persona or a function, you want to talk about their pain, you want to talk about their problems, you want to show them what good or great or their future could look like. Not with us in general, but of course, we're the ones who drive it. So
Mhm.
what's the way to do that? A value sell and about what your future could look like starts with thought leadership and bringing people together to converse about the problem. So we are very big on hosting our own community and events that is very authentic around their personas. Personas are legal operations, contract managers, legal counsels, and the executives, which are AGC and GCs, heads of legal. There's a lot of terms there. And bringing them together to converse and also to cross-pollination, i.e., it's really good for me as a CMO to have conversations with heads of revenue operations and also sales and CS leaders, because then we ideate and we understand from each other. Don't just have CMOs talk to CMOs. We bore each other anyway, so it's all good.
Mm.
So what I mean here is bringing these people together to talk about the problem and then understanding what does good look like to solve it together as a function, as an organization, is part of our secret sauce. And we supplement that with research, thought leadership, a really good amount of people that are our advocates that believe in our story, not the SpotDraft story. We have this community called Beacon, which brings people together. That is a significant part of what we do. The second part of that is also we believe in engagement. So the metric that I always challenge my team on is not about inbounds, demos, inbounds, demos. Those are great, but it's about how are we engaging? How are we generating interest? How are we generating intent, first party intent for our captive audience? That's what matters. Whether it's outbound, whether it's all bound ABM, whether it is an element of inbound, that's secondary, but it's all about engaging with a topic that's relevant to their pain and the value driver. And then later on, we show how we solve it. But that's top of the funnel is extremely important for us.
I really appreciate this answer, and I don't think it's something that we get as often on this podcast. I think what you're saying about not just, inbound leads are great, but can we start and control the conversation with the people we care about? So get them all into a room, have them talking, letting them identify the problems and talk about how do you handle this? How do I handle that? And once the conversation starts, everyone always says, well, what is the solution? And SpotDraft's there. You are hosting, you are facilitating, you are in the right place at the right time. But if you can get the conversation started, they start recognizing their problems. But without the conversation, maybe they just continue on their day to day, and they move from one problem to the next, and it's just normal work. But if you can create the conversation, give them a place to have that conversation all together, I think that's a really, really smart idea. You don't you don't want to be the solution to the conversation. You want to be the conversation
That is
in
exactly right.
from the
Yeah.
beginning. So
And
really, really
why don't
good.
I want to add to that a bit. So being the conversation is exactly that, because it's better, as we know in enterprise, to steer the RFP towards you versus just receiving an RFP that's already
Mhm.
biased or you might be best fit for. That's very detailed. But if you are driving the conversation, you're talking about what the value drivers are, what are the pain points, what does good look like, what does your future look like, then not only are you impacting eventually a sale because we are for profit, we're a software company,
Mhm. Mhm.
but you're also having ability to influence the teams, the personas to come together and say, we actually think this is what should be the solution or the pain reliever, let's call it for us, not even the software that we need to fix. What do we need to fix? What's prioritization? And to do that, conversations are what happens. And then it also translates into how do they engage with us. I would love them all to come to our website and say, or to come to us and say, hey, we want to talk to you because we want to learn a bit more about what you said and this and that and that. That's the best conversation, better than paid, way better than paid.
Right.
Because paid is usually they're coming to you, you capturing them, but somebody else also probably capture them. And
Mhm.
then it's like, okay, we're weighing a few. I'd rather have authentic inbounds that are actually coming after engagement because they mean that they've seen something they're interested in, they want to learn more.
Yeah, something influenced them that was created by your
Right.
team, right? And it had an impact enough for them to say, I want to learn more. And that doesn't mean that they clicked on an ad that has the same keyword, by someone else's company that's using the same thing. I think that's really, really smart. So I love that answer. Awesome. Next one. I want to talk a little bit about the website. So how does your website kind of play into overall client acquisition? Because it does sound like you want to be influencing them in so many different areas with, the way that you, let's say, manipulate the conversation in a way, but ultimately the website must play a big role in terms of, that final decision making process of, oh, should I be scheduling a demo or something? So, yeah, I guess the question is, what role does the website play in terms of this entire client acquisition process? And do you think there's any major strengths or weaknesses at the moment?
So the first funny thing to think about is when marketers get asked what percent of deals are you driving or influence, it's always 100% because everybody at some point of time visits your website, right? So
Mhm.
your digital properties now, it's actually more than just a website. It's your social properties, your presence on review sites, others. Your digital footprint and properties are very important, and even more important today with AEO and GEO, with the world of AI coming around us, that you can be talked about even on your Reddit profile or your Reddit threads that you're talking about. You need to be able to be in the conversation. Eventually, you want them to get to your website because then you have a lot more control over them. So I don't think I would have ever been in love completely with a website that represented where I work because there's always more to do. There's always more optimization. There's always better things to do. There's always journey mapping. There's always analytics better. Always. But the purpose of a website for me, aligned to value sell to a persona and a function, should really talk about that, about value. What does good look like? What is the future? How do you solve things? What can you do? Benchmark reports, toolkits, those kind of things. Be there for a persona education, awareness, and then engagement. The right people will convert. Sure, you should very much have a good conversion engine. Ours is fine. There's always more work to do. But our homepage and our website is not built for immediate conversion, SMB, massive inbound paid, click, 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 and then that. No, it's built for education and it's built to drive engagement because that's what these people really need. They are super smart and amazing, but I think our job is to help them be on a journey and not end the journey, but be on a journey.
Yeah, and I think, at least in my perspective, it's also important to understand who you are to your clients and what industry you're ultimately in. Like for you guys, an enterprise level sales opportunity for software isn't something where someone's just going to visit your website once and make a purchase. That's simply not going to happen. That's not the reality of the situation. your type of solution that you're providing is something that requires a very good amount of education. And so, yeah, you don't want to come off as, hey, 50% off Black Friday sale. That is not who you guys are, right? So, yeah, I think it's really important. Stay in your lane and understand we need to educate these people as part of a much larger purchasing process, which is, I don't know, what does a typical sales process look like for you guys, or at least like the timeline? Is it 3 months, 6 months, 1 year? Like, what does a typical process look
Very,
like?
very. It depends on the company and situation. Yeah, it can be as as soon as the company is ready to buy. It can be less than 6 months. It can be less than 60 days many times. It varies. So that's why we have to cater to all of our audience and all of our personas. And the website really is just one part of it,
Mm.
but it is an important part because that's the face of the company.
Yeah, well said. I want to switch the conversation away from SpotDraft and a little bit more over to Alon as the marketing professional and get a little bit more of your own opinions. Maybe you can tell me, what do you think does make a great converting website? Are there any sort of tips or tools or methods that you might recommend to anyone that's kind of building a new website or maybe redesigning their current website?
There's I think, an old school belief that you need a lot on a website and a lot on every page. It's similar to, oh God, I only have 5 minute presentation, I only have 3 slides. I'm going to put a lot of bullets on it.
Right.
No, simple, concise, and take them through a journey. Because the more you break down the journey, actually, the better you can have a trail that is digital based engagement. And then you can drive actions that might be offsite because maybe they left and then you can retarget them, then you can follow them around, then you can understand behaviors, then you can drive them to a different CTA. Keep it simple, like really, that is very, very important. Visual, of course, I'm not going to talk performance, low time, regional, localization, that's obvious.
Of course, yeah.
Keep it very focused. So if the focus is provide value, educate, drive engagement toward the journey, sure. If the focus is 50% off, then be very conversion focused. That's like, well, that's what makes them, I think, really good websites. I don't think any website that I know only has simple, very easy. Everybody tries to cram too much in
Mm.
because, oh, don't forget to talk about the features. Or like, oh, tell them about this book. Sure, but the more you can measure, optimize, not completely in agile because you can't change things in a day, give it some soak time, but really measure and try to do that. And everybody's guilty of trying to measure everything and not taking action. But I think in websites, it's important.
I do also think, though, there is a degree of this balance between how much content do you need from a digital marketing perspective, because, the more keywords and the more pages and the more content, you end up ranking higher, but how much of that ends up having a negative effect on the overall user experience. And there's always going to be that balance, right?
I mean, that's the conflict. As we're getting now into more of a mature, not really mature, we're starting an early maturity phase of not just classic SEO, but more geo and everything to do with that, then even search terms change, how the people come to your website change, tagging and tracking them changes. That influences what you just said right now. Do you need an SEO based and focused website? Yes, but do you need it actually offsite more with reach?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions that I'm asking myself and other in my team as well. How do we balance the two?
Yeah, that balance is always going to be something we're working with for a long time, but I have a feeling AI will be able to answer that sooner rather than later. Okay, moving on. I want to know a little bit about yourself because we're always trying to grow and learn and stay up to date, but there's a lot of different places you can kind of go to do that. And to make sure that you're always staying on top of your game, where do you go? What are the sources you like to stay up to date with in order to make sure that you're at the top of your game?
I like communities. I believe in people-to-people conversations. I'm part of a few. Uh, I enjoy going to, even in-person events when I have the time and just flushing it out, not just with other marketing leaders, but also with functional leaders, operation, sales. I do follow some publications on and off. I do a lot, I do quite a bit of LinkedIn because also I think on LinkedIn you have to be curious to learn to see. I'm quite disappointed continuously with LinkedIn more and more every day. I feel like it's just a little bit of a dumping ground for people to try and just catch, I don't know, the algorithm and influence, but I don't really know if it works for them.
Good point.
Number of followers, nice. Engagement is what matters. So the those are the combination. Uh, I don't really like newsletters as much. I do, yes, sometimes. But I like when people share important things on communities, on Slack channels and others. When I have time, I just engage with that and I want to listen and I want to hear. But mostly it's really about if I think if you are selling to senior marketers, bring them together. That's what matters.
I would 100% agree. I had maybe about 2 years ago or so, I took over the partnership manager role here at PathMonk, and I'm always looking to understand how can I improve from a partnership perspective. The best piece of advice that I got from another person in my network was join a couple of those publicly available partnership groups in Slack. And I realized so quickly there are so many people out there that not only know the answers to the problems I'm having, but are also experiencing the same problems and asking other questions. And even if you're not necessarily engaged in the conversation yourself and typing what problems you have or answering other people's questions, just keeping an eye on those conversations in general can be really, really helpful and help you grow. And yeah, though I have to agree 100%, those places are excellent places to grow. um, so we're coming into the final section of the conversation here. It's been great so far, but we're going to change the questions a little bit. They're going to be a little less work oriented, but a little bit more fun, thought-provoking outro type questions. So I hope we have some fun with it. First one, if there were no boundaries in technology, and I mean you could snap your fingers, total magic, anything is possible, what would be the one thing that you would want to have fixed for your role as the CMO today?
Not just for this company, it's in general. So I always tell teams that in order to make decisions, we need to start with language that we agree upon. What is a metric? What is an SQL? What is an opportunity? What is a sales ready account? And then you go to data that talks about that and shows you things around those metrics or what you're measuring. And only then we get to insights. And no data is perfect. There's zero companies that I've been in quite a lot that is perfect data. If I could automate true insights that will learn and get the data that when upon agreed upon language, because you have to be involved in that as human,
Mhm.
that will save a lot of time for decision making and executive engagement because and a lot of people talk about how they can deliver data through AI. It's not always the case as part of it. That is very big. I want to lead with insights.
That's a really good answer. Next one. If there was one repetitive task out of all the things I'm sure that you find quite repetitive, what is the one repetitive task that you would automate completely?
Data gathering,
Okay, same category.
yeah, it's exactly the same. Just reduce the data gathering and just skip that stage.
Okay, got it. And I mean, it's the data gathering is so much more than, as you say, data gathering. It's let's define what the data looks like. Let's figure out how we are getting that data. Let's figure out how we make sure that that data is clean from start to finish. That whole thing, automate it all, right?
Yes, please.
Excellent answer. Okay. And to round things off, what is one piece of advice that you would give yourself if you were to restart your journey as a marketer today?
The world of marketing in B2B, not in B2C, especially more upmarket. We don't, again, and it's controversial, marketing CMOs do not own any of the board metrics. We don't own net retention. We do not own revenue. Some people think they do. We don't. I've never seen a marketer close a deal.
Sure.
That's sales. And we don't own other growth or whatever the third metric of success is. And EBITDA is not on us. I would say to myself, it is the most exciting and interesting place to be for me, I think, in a company is full funnel marketer, which is what I am. I look at everything. But it is also the most challenging because at the end of the day, you got to show how you influence, drive, and co-own these bold KPIs. And that's, I think, is the beautiful conundrum of B2B marketing.
Yeah, be able to do all of that, but stand up to the challenge, right? Don't shy away from it. It's exciting, but it's going to be tough. So I think that's some really wise words. So Alon, thank you so much for joining today. We really enjoyed having you on the show. But before we get going, just one more time, why don't you tell our audience what is SpotDraft and how can they find you?
SpotDraft is basically your record core system for in-house legal teams from everything that you need to do for your day-to-day tasks, requests, and contracts, and really helps you do the job that you wanted to do versus the job that you have to do.
Awesome. Thanks for the time, Alon.